Hi skiers, I'm Jeff from SkiEssentials.com. Welcome to episode 6 of our weekly Top 5 Fridays news videos. As a general reminder, there is a written version of this too. In fact, we've been doing the written Top 5 Fridays for, 6 or 7 years or so at least, a while now. So I encourage anyone that's watching this to check out the written article too. My talented colleague Matt McGinnis writes that up, and it's usually a very entertaining read. So that's it. Let's jump right into this week's news topics. As has been the trend thus far, we do have some COVID-19 related topics to address, some of which are updates, some is kind of some new developments. And then we've got some non-COVID-19 related stuff too, which is always fun. So to kind of recap on what we've talked about in the past, we have some updates on resort openings. First off, Vail Resorts sent out basically a letter saying that they will not be opening Whistler, Breck, and Heavenly for the remainder of the season. I don't think that's a huge surprise to anybody, especially what we've talked about in past weeks about, restrictions in Colorado and kind of what they're hearing from their governor and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't think that's surprising to anybody. The kind of the silver lining, I suppose, is that in theory, Whistler might be able to open later in the summer, with glacier access. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll see what happens with that. On a more positive note, we had some updates from Timberline and Mount Bachelor. Both of those resorts in Oregon have opened. We talked about that last week. And so far it seems like it's been a successful reopening. I've seen a lot of, we actually had a gentleman comment on last week's video saying that he got a chance to ski and said it was great and said he felt safe and that they did a good job. I've pretty much heard nothing but the same report, that guests are respecting each other, guests are respecting the resort's guidelines and expectations and stuff like that. Really sounds like the only trouble right now, and I don't even know if you could call it it's not really a problem, so to speak, but the reservation system has proven to really been the biggest challenge, and it's just because there's such a demand that it's difficult to reserve your spot. And there have been a few kind of technical difficulties as well, which, I can only imagine if I was waking up early and kind of on my computer ready to reserve something, and then if the site went down and I wasn't able to, and then when I got back on it was booked. I can totally understand how that would be pretty frustrating. Aspen Times did a really nice piece kind of summarizing everything that's going on with ski resorts right now, so I would encourage you to check out that. They talk a little bit more about A-Basin. A-Basin's kind of still waiting for word from the governor in Colorado whether they'll be able to open or not and when. But A-Basin did put out a statement saying that they've been kind of pushing snow around and grooming and snow farming, so to speak, to ensure that if they do have the opportunity to reopen, it'll be as good as possible. And then industry legend, can we call him a legend? I'm going to call him a legend, even though he's only like a year older than me. Josh Malchik, if you don't know the name, he's a great guy. He tells his story of getting back on snow at Timberline, basically a story that he wrote for Free Skier magazine, and it's a really good read. Josh is a good writer, very knowledgeable in the ski industry, very, very experienced, so it was cool to get a first-hand report from his perspective, so to speak. And that's it. So ski area updates. This is very much carrying on that theme, specifically at Timberline. This is an article on skiracing.com, basically about how various summer camps are kind of, positioning and are cautiously optimistic about opening at Timberline this summer. Sounds like it's going to happen, but there are obviously certain things that they need to figure out. Oregon is about to enter into what they're calling phase 2 of their reopening plan, which will allow for, more bigger groups in a place like Timberline. But currently day camps are only allowed and overnight camps aren't. So it'll be interesting whether that changes with phase 2. And just thinking about it and having been at Mount Hood in the summer, there's typically a lot of people there, and it's pretty congested at times. Even the lanes themselves are very close together. I think it'd be easy to maintain social distancing there, even if you decrease the total amount of lanes and kind of spread them out a little bit. I think that would help. The thing that comes to mind for me is both the chairlifts really act as a bottleneck, especially the lower of the two, because you kind of have to walk up a hill to get to the lift. So I think they'd really have to space people out there, and I don't know if there's enough room really. I think they'd really have to limit the amount of people. But that's really interesting. I hope that they can do that. I think those summer ski camps are just important. I never had the opportunity to attend one as a participant, but always kind of wanted to, and I think it would be a bummer if those weren't able to operate this summer. Next up, another article off of skiracing.com. So thanks to skiracing.com for putting out some great content this week. This one's pretty darn interesting, and I think this would be a bummer. But basically, this is a report on FIS considering to restrict the 2021 World Cup season to just European venues. And what that might also mean is, depending on travel restrictions, that could also be just European competitors. So obviously that would be a huge change. And that they are kind of viewing that as their worst case scenario right now. They're basically looking at the whole situation and saying here, what are all the options, given the variables that we don't know yet over the next months. But I think that would be a bummer. I think it would be hard to even call it a World Cup. Obviously, it would need a big asterisk somewhere. That it would be disappointing to not get to follow U.S. athletes or Canadian athletes or anybody other than European athletes. Obviously, it would still be a high level of competition. It would still be entertaining, but we wouldn't get a Killington World Cup. No Michaela Schifrin, what's the World Cup without Michaela Schifrin these days? So that'll be interesting. I definitely hope that doesn't happen. I hope that they can have some version of a complete World Cup, whether it's limited stops or who knows. These are things that they're going to have to figure out down the road. And then this last one is thankfully not COVID-19 related. There are new details about a proposed backcountry only resort in British Columbia. Name of it is Zinc Tan. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And I think there's been some information about this for about a year now, but it's been very minimal information. But they just released their executive summary to the public. So pretty cool. I would encourage you to read through it if you have time or if you're interested. Basically, the area itself has a rich history in mining. There are some pictures of it. It looks like really, really cool terrain. It seems to me similar to Silverton, but maybe taking it a step further. And in these are their words from that executive summary, and I quote, "It would be a world-class, all-season, backcountry-oriented mountain destination that delivers an unparalleled recreation experience complemented by a pedestrian-only, environmentally sustainable mountain village." So that sounds pretty cool to me. Obviously that's way different than most typical mountain towns. I think it would be a unique experience and something that I personally would be pretty interested in looking into. So it's going to be really interesting to see the developments of that. Hopefully that comes to fruition and we can go on some backcountry trips. And that's it for news topics. Last, we have our edits of the week as usual. About a year ago, Faction released an edit that was Henry Sildaru chasing Candide, which was awesome. And they just released kind of another version of that. This time it's Henry Sildaru chasing Antiolila. Antiolila has quickly become one of my favorite skiers to watch. Super unique style, very smooth, unbelievable talent on skis. Obviously, he's kind of blurring competition talent and experience with a unique vision and a unique approach to skiing. Then we have an edit from Hedvig Vessel, Bromance episode 12, which is basically covering some training between Freeride World Tour stops. Some pretty incredible skiing in there, and a great edit. Level 1 Productions released Thane Rich's segment from Zigzag. That whole movie's awesome. If you haven't seen it, check out Thane's segment. Maybe you'll want to watch the whole movie too. And then lastly, if you're bored this weekend, or that's how my colleague Matt put it, if you're bored over Memorial Day weekend, we have an edit for you called How to Learn a Backflip in 4 Minutes. I will not be partaking. My days of backflips on the flat ground are 15 years behind me at least. I'll do a backflip on skis or on a trampoline or something like that, but Matt, I will not be learning how to backflip on the ground in 4 minutes this weekend. My apologies. So that's it. Hope everyone's healthy and happy and staying safe. Unbelievable stretch of weather here in Vermont. It feels like we live in like Tahoe, or I don't even know. I mean, I can't remember having this many days of sun in a row. But been really nice to get back outside. We've had some restrictions lifted in Vermont, so trail networks are opening around here. We can get together in slightly larger groups with proper social distancing and safety and stuff like that. Still working from home, obviously, so not everything has been lifted, but really nice to be able to get outside in this stretch of weather. So yeah, we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for checking in again.